Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another video. So I've got quite a lot to talk about today. Obviously yesterday we had quite a big pullback across markets. If we just look at, for example, Bitcoin, actually isn't as bad as you think. Like when you look at it, like it's only a few percent pullback. Everyone's losing their absolute minds, and I get it. Like since the 13th of August, which is ages ago now. Like how long ago is the 13th of August? Let's have a look in days. We've basically been going sideways or downwards for 44 days. And look, it feels awful out there. ETH has basically accelerated to the downside the last few days. And again, it feels awful. But I'm here to just come and give my opinion again, as I always do on this channel. It looks like I'm having beef with people online. I'm not. Someone gives their opinion, I give my opinion. I actually don't try to make it personal or anything like that. But then yesterday, Benjamin Cohen came and had a pop at me. I don't know if you follow me on X. Came and had a pop because he thinks his thesis has played out, and I still actually don't think his thesis has played out yet. But anyway, that's irrelevant. I wouldn't go back to someone's previous TA and be like, "Oh, look, I told you this was going to happen." And what I normally try to do, or if I've done that in the past, then fair enough. I don't think I do that because I don't try and involve myself in that. But what I do try to do is, if I do conflict with someone's opinion at the minute, like Ansem, recently blockchain backer, and Benjamin Cohen, then I just say what my opinion is, and I'm never going to stop doing that. People online said, "Oh, stick to your own stuff." I do stick to my own stuff. This is my own opinion. If that conflicts with someone who's a bigger voice than me in the space, I will say it, because I think that people, obviously they have more emotional reach because they get to reach more people. And so I just literally use that to try and counterbalance how people might feel when they look at that post. Because I know when I was like first in the crypto space, and even sometimes now when like the markets are red and then you see in big accounts posting bearish things, it affects you in like emotionally. And I just don't agree. And so I'm going to just continue to say what I do and don't think. And it doesn't mean I'll be right. It doesn't mean I'll be right. I never said that I would be. I've always said, even when things go the direction that I said, I say I won't always be right, but I will always give my opinion. And that is what I will continue to do. Whether people want to beef me about that or not, like that's fine. I think it's a bit, honestly do think it's a bit pathetic that people try and beef you about it. But let's see what happens. It is what it is. It's crypto, innit? People, keyboard warriors online and that. So looking at a few things here, this is Bitcoin dominance. But first, actually, we'll get into liquidity. So we've had this drop for Bitcoin. I think it's probably likely that we take this. I hope we take this liquidity now. It's been sitting below us realistically since like July. It was here since this level here, which is like the 9th of July. So we've had this liquidity sitting at 106k for now 79 days, and I've been talking about it, and I'm saying I don't know if it's going to get taken. As we've got up into these levels here, I was like, it's less likely that it gets taken because obviously it's further away and we do leave some liquidity behind at times. And now we're this close to it, you've got to think that surely we just have like the little flush down, take this liquidity. It's a 4% move from here to take all the liquidity, including the orange, or a 3% move just to take the 106k. I'd prefer we just wick in and take it all. That would be the best scenario. And then basically it's upside only for me after that point. Again, it doesn't mean we have to take it, because I'm going to get into a few things here that aren't particularly bearish. I think people are over bearish right now. And I include those people that I've just mentioned. And I think that resembles how people are feeling in the market generally. And that's why I bring it up, because look, you can have that opinion, that's fine. That's what TA is for. It's largely subjective. We play on percentages, we play on risk to reward. I think the risk to reward of being bearish here is unfavorable. I think we're in a larger bull market. I don't think we're anywhere near peaked. I think Bitcoin goes to at least 145, 150k plus, more likely towards 180k. Like for my minimum targets, my least target is 150. My minimum ish after that is 180. Like the most likely target of, and still conservative, that's what I'm trying to say, is like 180, and it could go much higher than that, towards 200, 250 if we get a good cycle, and some crazy numbers if the stars align. And I don't think XRP even is anywhere near, and I also don't think ETH is anywhere near. Okay, so that's why I think that. Okay, guys. Now there's some contradictory things to that. It's like equities are at all-time high, gold's at all-time high. Bitcoin and crypto yet hasn't really pushed those all-time highs relative to when gold and crypto, to when gold and equities have, and they're risk on and risk off. So both sides of the trade have hit all-time highs and we're still waiting for crypto, doesn't mean it won't come, in my opinion. Now, today there are Bitcoin options expiring, and so that could cause the volatility to bring us down here. I kind of just hope it does, as I said, just to get us out of this, well, get this liquidity gone below us. However, let's get into some why other things might change and what else I'm seeing in the market. So looking at ETH, this is all the hourly liquidity charts, guys. So hourly liquidity, this is obviously trading different. ETH has taken all the downside liquidity, okay, a little bit built below us since like last night. We may wick into that. Maybe if Bitcoin does take that area, and there is some all the way down at 3.3, but it's nothing compared to what is above us, where above us is the majority of the liquidity right now for ETH between 4.7 and 5,000. Let's take you to Cardano next. Here's obviously another token that we watch, being in the top 10s on 5 minutes. Let me just get on the hourly. Cardano, again, there is a slight bit of liquidity below us. Obviously, it's been building overnight as people have been longing into this area, but look at the dense liquidity above us, up at, for Cardano, $1-ish. If we look at XRP, we've seen a lot of, that's the other thing actually on a lot of tokens, and I haven't covered on that for a while. We've seen a lot of open interest that has been taken. Now XRP could come as low as 254. There is liquidity down there. There is. So if we get that wick today, a flash wick, and everyone thinks it's over, that could come. But look again at the dense liquidity is above us at 340. And so even if we do come down to that level, it's inevitable to me that we take the levels above us, okay? And then I'm going to show you this on the daily time frame as well. I'm going to show you all of those altcoins on the daily time frame too. What are we looking at? Again, dense liquidity above us. Yes, there is some below, but look, even here in the last day or so, there was some at 213 that was quite dense, and some of that's been removed. So that means people who were long here have started to close those long positions. There is still all this liquidity below, but above us is the most dense area of liquidity, unarguably. And so I think that this gets taken. It's inevitable that at some point this gets taken. If we look at Cardano, do the reverse of what we've just done, just look at the others. Cardano, look, similar story, dense liquidity above us. Yeah, you could argue there is some liquidity down to 66 cents, but look above us, it's much more dense above us here for Cardano, 102 all the way up to 120 and above. ETH, similar story. Taking the dense liquidity here, unless we come down to 3,000 on the daily, the most liquidity sits above us, 5,000, and now all the way up to like $5,600. Bitcoin, this is the one that really tells me that I really don't think the move's over yet. Like, I don't think the market's over. In terms of liquidity, is we've got such dense liquidity above us at like 125, 130, and then some building out 140. The most dense that we've seen in this market so far. Do you think in the world, look, below us, the longs are getting closed out, which was liquidity, getting left behind, closing those positions. But do you think in this world where market makers clearly shift the price around into areas of liquidity, they're going to leave the most shorts like ever that we've seen in the market to win positions in the bull market, like being over sort of thing? Oh, do you know what? We've got the most people ever in short positions. We'll let them all win for the first time ever. I don't know. I don't think so. But yeah, that's one of my cases for a continued bull market. Anyway, let's continue. So Bitcoin dominance. This is what Ben Cohen came and had a pop at me about yesterday, because when we were in this area here, he literally tweeted to say there's 0% chance it could go lower. It did go lower. He came back and said, "Oh, I never said there was 0% chance that it could go lower," even though he gave 3 scenarios and none of them were that it went lower. But anyway, we'll leave that out. He also is gloating here, and I think it's a bit early to be counting your chickens. Maybe he could be right in the short term, but I don't think we've really violated anything yet. What I can just see here is the Bitcoin dominance has done what we've talked about so far. Again, nothing really confirmed. We're as overbought as we've ever been on the 4-hour Bitcoin dominance. The high was here in Bitcoin dominance. It was right here. This was the high on the 4-hour. And we got actually did make a slightly higher high, but with a deep bearish divergence there. So if we do make a slightly higher higher high here with a lower high on the RSI, then that will potentially be a consideration to continue down for Bitcoin dominance. This is, so this would be good for altcoins. The next time Bitcoin dominance on the 4-hour made the overbought area again, that also marked a local high, and now we're in that area again. So as I said, a bit early to be counting your chickens. Who knows what happens in the future, but looking at the last the last 2 out of 3 times, this being the third that we've hit overbought, they have marked local highs. On top of this, let's look at Ethereum. This is something that I've been looking at the last few days. Ethereum is the most oversold on the 4-hourly that we have been, literally in line with the absolute lows for Ethereum that came in at like 1.4. We take us to the daily as well, and it shows a similar picture. This doesn't mean that the bottom's definitely in. I'm just showing you relatively that we've over pushed to the downside, especially. I'm going to get onto sentiment as well in a second. So Ethereum on the daily touched the oversold area. It's lower than it was even in this period here, which marked the lows at 2,200. So it's most similar or as low, the lowest we've been since the absolute lows. And then even when we got to this period, as I said, on the daily RSI, we were at the bottom there. Doesn't mean, again, though, there's not like a day or two of still working this out before we continue higher. There might be. Bitcoin, we're in this area where we've pretty much bounced so far. Let's just show you. Just draw this on. There's the other thing that I've been looking at. I'm trying to get a vertical line open just so you can see what I'm talking about. Bitcoin here is at the same level that we bounced from here, look. And then even if we go back to this level, when we hit these lows around this area, that we bounced there. When we got to this level again, right here, this was the low for Bitcoin. Even below 50 here, this actually marked the local low. Again, when we got to this area here, this was absolutely the bottom. Now, I'm not saying that we couldn't come a little bit lower, because what's happened in the past is we've had that low, and then we formed a higher low on the RSI, continued higher low, and another higher low here as price continued to diverge, meaning that price goes higher as lows go lower. And this is still apparent on the 4-hour for Bitcoin. Let's take these drawings off, and I'm going to make this more obvious for you guys. So we're going to bring the RSI up so you can clearly see it. And this trend is quite apparent across a lot of different altcoins right now. Price making lower lows and RSI making higher lows. Like, this is a bullish divergence on a continued larger time frame now, or longer period. Like, this is how bottoms do form. Again, I'm not saying this is the bottom. I do think it's potential that we do take that 106k liquidity, and then if Bitcoin 4-hourly comes lower, then it would violate the bullish divergence here. But look how low the 4-hour Bitcoin RSI went, and look through history at what that means. The last time we touched this level, again for Bitcoin, was 75k region. But yes, in this level, we did still chop about for a bit. We did put a low in at like 78, came up, chopped about, and then put the 75 in. Kind of hope we don't do that with the 106k. We could just like mess about in this area, go to 115, come back, hit the 106. I don't think we will, though, because I think based on like the macro and looking at, say, like Raoul Powell's work yesterday with Julian Patel, they think that going into Q4, and I actually agree, it's normally a bullish period, and there's a lot of like bullish events potentially happening here for crypto. So I do think the macro and the wider picture is lining up for a bull market. You're seeing like other things at all-time high, like equities and gold, for example. And if they're right with that macro framework, and that's the sort of like thesis that I reside with on the larger time frame, that we could be starting to push, hopefully sooner rather than later, is the point that I'm trying to make. Other times when we've got near this area of oversold was this point here at 99k, where we went down, then actually that was a local low, and then this point here again, a local low before actually going on to set all-time highs. So looking at Doge, it's a similar story. We talked about that ABC. It came into this area, and if we use like the order block technique, this is the area where These were the last structures before a structure break to the upside. It's a perfect area for support. That area of support comes as Doge again creates a bullish divergence right into that area, which is, like, as you can see here, that's a structure break there. Then you'd look for an entry in this order block. So still in my Doge position, actually slightly maybe underwater now if you include like funding and stuff. Even though we did have we were up here, I still think that Doge is a decent long-term buy. As long as the structure continues, we are creating higher lows and higher highs, because this did break and continue with that structure. Flare's a bit of an annoying one. It's the same story always in crypto, isn't it? Whenever you get a utility pump, it always retraces it. Got nothing more or less to say about that. I'm still massively bullish Flare. XRP, nothing too much to say. We've not violated any structures yet. Doesn't mean we can't. But look at what we see on the daily. We're still holding the daily close above this time frame here, which was where the structure changed after having the pump from 50 cents up to 270. It doesn't mean we can't do something like this. Where's my pen? I'm not ruling anything out, guys. It doesn't mean we can't go like this, for example, down towards like 250 and then get up. We did just talk about that liquidity that is there on trading different. But also, it doesn't mean we have to do that. What I discussed today on Twitter is blockchain backers calling for capitulation here, or saying that this previous times it's capitulated from here. I actually said, this is the Doge chart from a few weeks ago. This is the similar structure that blockchain backers discussing. And there are times also where we start to push to the upside from this level. Just showing you that right there. Doesn't mean that we will, doesn't mean that we won't. But what this does mean, and this is where it's like, it's fine to say, oh, I'm flip-flopping. But what this does mean is these areas at the bottom of a range, or even including this area here, where I said, like, if we sweep the bottom of the range, these are the best risk reward areas for a trade. You don't want to be taking the trade here if you're trying to make this area or a higher. You want to be taking the trade here because the return is much larger. So I'll give you an example on a long trade. So let's just say this is an example. I'm not necessarily taking this, but if we want to even just trade this range from here, you could have a really tight invalidation and say, look, if it goes below that wick, then that's closing us out. That would be 11 to 1 trade. You could have a larger stop loss at 3.75 to 1, so that would actually include that liquidity there. Or if you want to be a bit more safe, you could wait into the 360. Again, you wouldn't necessarily get filled, but you could then take that as a 9 to 1 trade just back to the highs, and that's how you trade, and that's how you add to spot positions as well. Okay, doesn't mean that, like, saying what you think realistically in the short term or what you feel isn't that relevant. It's about where it plays part of the point, it plays part of the picture, but it's about where taking risk to reward trades are favorable. And if you believe that we're in a bull market, that's where the emotion and stuff is important, or the longer term thesis is important to see which direction that you're trending in, because you should trade with the trend. And I think we're still trending upwards. I think everything points to that we are on the larger time frames. And so when people are getting twisted like this, I don't really understand why, especially when they've had this experience in the market. And I know that it's going to flip-flop. If we go back to the upside, all of a sudden these boys are going to be bullish again, and they're going to say, oh, look, but no, I said this, no, I said this. Whatever, I'm giving you my opinion, could be wrong. I think these are good opportunities to be buying or adding to portfolios. That's my opinion. I've not changed anything with my portfolio or structure or anything. I'm still even in my Doge long. I held it because I still think Doge is going to go higher, and that's why I didn't close when we were up at like whatever 30 cents or whatever. I mean, it'd be nice if I did now, because then I could just rebuy. But it is what it is. That's my thesis. I stuck to my thesis, and I still stick to it. Okay? I hope I'm explaining why I think the way I am. I'm going to finish with that, actually. Yesterday, we had some weird narratives come out. One was UK digital ID. This is another one. Microsoft terminates Israeli military access to technology after uncovering mass surveillance system violating its terms. Also, Russia claimed NATO has declared war against them. And then Charles Hoskinson said that because there's all the basically army generals are being called to the US, and he says that 3i or Atlas is alien and the Pentagon are gearing up. Kind of mad narratives, all coming in at the lows. Like I saw the war narrative come up so much at the lows, which is crazy. Happens every single time. And look, it doesn't mean that it is the low, but what it means is at the low period. And we are also massively in fear at 28 on the fear and greed index, and Bitcoin's at a fucking 109k. Like, come on, guys, please just. Like, it doesn't mean I'm going to be right, but just look at the difference between sentiment and price, and if you believe we're going into a bear market, okay, cool. But then what do you think, like, in the bear market is going to happen? Economies around the world are kind of fucked. They've got to print to get out of this trap. That's my opinion, and I think that is just going to continue indefinitely until we run into AI, essentially, or until there's a massive catalyst like World War III that could cause a flush. But then on the back of that, again, I still think crypto and printing money happens, and then crypto does exceedingly well being a neutral, like, cross-border asset that you can move with, send, all these sorts of things. So whatever the base case, I don't really understand. I think it's emotion and getting trapped and hoping that it was going to be alt season, just like me wanting it to be alt season and looking like getting signs, getting pushed back, getting signs, getting pushed back. But there's no need to be fearful here. We're literally near the highs. So the last thing I want to leave you with is a bit of bullish hopium. Basically, I'm saying that I think the US will buy some of Ripple, some potentially of Cardano's IOG, maybe some of the Link Reserve, and maybe some MicroStrategy and some Sol. I think that Ripple specifically are embodying exactly what the US and what Trump wants to see. Victimized by the previous administration who Trump hates, and stuck with the US, stayed patriotic, stayed for the US, and now America wants to be the leading AI and crypto player in the world. It just makes so much sense to me. And then all of a sudden, Ripple are everywhere. They're in with the SEC, they're in with the CFTC, they're in helping funds like Securitize with BlackRock's fund and VanEck's funds and Franklin Templeton's funds. And they're also over there in the UK helping with joint legislation between the US and UK. I just think that people are overlooking the big picture because of some short-term bearish price action. We've got potentially ETFs coming for cryptos next month. We're going to have the Clarity Act coming in as well. Just don't get twisted out of the party, man. Like, you can see that everyone feels exactly like you do if you're feeling negative, because the fear and greed index is deep into fear, whilst price action realistically is still pretty high. So yeah, doesn't mean the top's not in. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But I hope I've laid out my thesis for you guys in this video. I've got my newsletter coming out tomorrow. I'm just going to write that now. Please go and subscribe to that if you enjoy. It's free to do. It's free to subscribe to this channel too. Hit the like button. Share it with a friend if you did enjoy. Let me know if you've got any questions in the comment section below. Also, if you want to trade on any different exchanges, I've got a affiliate link to MEXC and WEX in the description of this video. Obviously, nothing I say is financial advice, guys. I hope we see you on the other side, and I think that the other side's going to be glorious. It's just when that comes. I'm not here to predict that. I'm here to tell you where I think we're going to go. When, I really don't know. But I think it's coming sooner than we think, especially seeing how everyone's turning against each other and how negative it is out there on crypto Twitter. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say. Thank you for watching.